Do you remember my Forgotten Crying Child video? If you haven't seen it, here's a recap. I laid out my theory that the crying child was telegraphed to be the puppet. There were a few important pieces of evidence, one of the biggest being that Scott himself said that the story of FNAF was complete after the fourth game, which meant that it wasn't possible that Charlie could be the puppet because Charlie as a character did not exist at that point. And how what was in the box changed as well, which Scott also said in either a different or the same interview. Things like how they look the same, the surrounded by plushies, the fact that the older brother calls the younger baby, or his friend says they're such a baby. The term baby had been used for the puppet and was actually referenced in the Halloween update of FNAF 4. This is all, everything on its own doesn't look like much, but when you put everything together, and the fact that the puppet was in FNAF 3 and stuff like that, and methods in FNAF World, there's a lot of stuff that I go through over that video, and if you watch it, you don't have to watch it, but if you watch it, it'll best explain everything I'm talking about. Either way, long and short of it was that there was a lot of suggestion and evidence, but the most important thing I went over was how the crying child's role dropped from an important enough character to get a full story to nobody at all after that point. One of the only points of evidence I had that I could not explain well was the Save Them minigame. Because the Save Them child, who does look like the crying child, well, we don't know if the crying child lived or died at the end of FNAF 4. That was actually what people were mentioning, was that they thought the crying child died, and that wouldn't make sense with the Save Them minigame. But we actually don't technically know if he died or not. But that's not the point. The point is, so that unknown lent credence to the belief that this bald crying child was always supposed to be Charlie, and that it was just a lack of minigame details that left it vague. That the redone version of Pizza Simulator showed the true events of that night, and that the appearance of the puppet at the end of the minigame proves that this was the puppet's origin, and that is the truth. And then two someones, bless you both, I couldn't find you in the comments, but I know you're in there somewhere. They pointed out something key to me. In the Take the Cake minigame, you can hear spelling in the background. I hadn't remembered this when I was researching for the Crying Child puppet video, and because of such, I missed this giant signboard that now reads as clear as day. And then for some reason, I just decided to wait until now to actually look and listen to it. And listen to this. That is definitely save him. That is save him. Not her, not them, save him. And this child is in the same position that Charlie is portrayed to be in the Pizzeria Simulator minigame. So, yeah, I think I can say it now. Back in that video I said I thought that the puppet was the crying child and that it was changed to be Charlie. Now I can say with full certainty that yes, the puppet was the crying child and that was changed to be Charlie. Whether to make the books and games one, or to give Henry a dog in the final fight, which is ridiculous, because if Henry and Charlie weren't in there at all, and the puppet was the crying child, it would have quite literally been the entire Afton family burning in there. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that when this minigame happened, that crying child was a he. That wasn't a mistake, that was on purpose. Someone said recently in the Shadow video that Scott has said that all the Easter eggs, at least in these old games that he had total control of, were on purpose. Then there you go. That's something. And yeah, that might also explain the fact that the puppet is still technically a he. And I know what someone might say. Well, the minigame's details are different, even though a few people did say that the different details weren't important. So that must mean that this happened twice. That this was just the first event of this, and that Charlie had the exact same thing happen to her later. No, I will not settle for that. Do you realize how ridiculous it is that every time a story abruptly changes that we have to just accept that there were two completely different events of the same caliber? I begrudgingly accepted that we have the bite of 87, But two purple men? No. Just come out and say that the story changed. It's not that big of a deal. And the thing is, Scott did. Scott came out and said the box changed. Scott came out and said we knew everything with FNAF 1 to 4. But that's not possible. And look, I don't care really that the story changed. I think that the story was made a little worse because of it. But I think it's worth saying that I think it was quite fine the way it was. I mean, you threw out one character for another again. And you want to know what the thing is that kind of irritates me? So, I did another puppet video, and it was called What Happened to the Puppet? And during that, I made my feelings very clear that characters have repeatedly been thrown off for the Aftons. But if the crying child, never confirmed, but if he was an Afton, and they changed the puppet from being an Afton to being Charlie, and then got rid of it because it was no longer an Afton, that'd be kind of frustrating, actually. Okay, so here's the deal. I probably won't talk about this subject ever again unless something really juicy like this pops up. How did I miss this? How do you miss something like this? You can check out my other puppet video if you want. I'm not trying to plug my video here. I just did a better job at getting my feelings across in that one, and I go through things such as the FNAF world connection with clocks and such like that. There's a lot more there in connection with FNAF 3. It's a lot more stable than this is. This is really just a rush. Because, this is embarrassing to have to make like a second video. To have something this is an actual piece of credible evidence, and I did not include this in the video, and I'm going to be kicking myself for that. Okay. Alright. Not much else to say on the subject, so I'll leave it with this. Thank you for watching. Also, I just saw a comment that I missed from Condor00FR93, who says that the hidden numbers of the promotional art for FNAF 4 clearly shows the numbers 87. Then it progressively got changed into 82, and then 83 as the game's release grew closer. Okay.